ugeze saa munani se ubwo arayubahiriza ra yego ndakubona. Okay.
Test mic 1 2 1 test mic 1 2 1 2 1 2 kwada testing us kwada testing test mic nabwira avuga test uriya mugabo uzi ko wambwiye ngo nze kumutestingira none akaba yirangana uriya wo ku gihe. Test mic 1 2 1 2 1 2 test mic 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 zirimo ziragonganira
reka zirwane turebe itsinda.
Yiyorere tugomba kuzisetinga ziri ku
Test mic 1 2 1 2 test mic 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 test
agashyira ku meza.
test mic test mic 1 2 1 2 1 2
test umva kavuga
kumva katavuga
test karavuga kana urakazimya noneho uzakomanaza
birizimya.
hello but they are not from the speakers.
Not, but I think from the thingies.
I thought you had to control it from your staff. Hello? Can you keep it and you keep testing?
I keep the microphone.
Yeah, and test it from there. Because I'm going to be busy with the other stuff.
Yeah, me too. Okay, fine.
Yeah, it's simple. You can even...
I do keep.
1 1 1 2 2 2 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 nigiri inyuma gutya 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 2 test 1 2 test microphone 1 2 1 2 too loud 1 2 ariko yibaza output Rwanda ariho umuntu yagabanya output ya hano Rwanda iteza 1 2 1 2 2 2 1 2 test microphone test 1 2 test 1 2 test 1 2 test 1 2 1 2 1 2 2 ngo bariya bari kuri rimwe, bariya nabahaye kuri rimwe, bariya ni bari igihe ni bari ari kumwe ngo ni turawuti One, two, two, one, two, 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 one, two, 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 two. Ngarashanga tuyigabane. Ugarashanga tuyigabane. Werekezo umushari sawa. Nazivuyemo rwose ngiye numvikana nabo baravuga ngo ni sawa bariya biki abare nyine ubu ngubu aho twongereye nibwo bari kuvuga bariya bigihe ngo ni turawuti. Bagaruka barongera bateza ibibazo kandi bari bayishimye bavuye mu misabo. One, two, two, one, two, two, one, two. One, two, two. Igihe. One, two. One, two. One, two. One, two. Ngoni sawa nana. One, two. Test, one, two. Test. Test microphone. Test, one, two. Test, one, two. Test, one, two. Test. Test, one, two. Test, one, two. 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. Test the micro. Test. Test, 1, 2. Test, 1, 2. Test, 1, 2. One, two, two, two. Uramenya ari iyihe sawa? 1, 2 ariko urayemenya. 1, 2 test 1, 2 test 1, 2 2, 2 1, 2 test 1, 2 1, 2 1, 2 2, 2 2 test. Test microphone. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. Test. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2.
Yes.
One two. Test 1 2. Test microphone 1 2. Test 1 test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. T 1 2. Test 1 2.
1 2
Ese yabivuga yegereje. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test microphone.
1 2 test 1 2
Test 1 2. Test 1 2. 1 2.
Doing PowerPoint. Doing PowerPoint presentation. You can't. He has to check whether it's the right slide.
1 2 test 1 2 test 1 2 1 2 1 2 test urumva haracyarimo ntuza 1 2 test test 1 2 test 1 2 hano sara ntabwo yahagera hano 1 2 test 1 2 test microphone test 1 2 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 wana kuri kenze 1 2 1 2 test 1 2 test 1 2 test 1 2 test 1 2 1 2 test 1 2 1 2 test 1 2 nta muntu uri kumwe 1 2 test 1 2 1 2 nzamureho 1 2 1 2 test 1 2 test 1 2 test 1 2 test microphone test 1 2 test 1 2 ndumva warekera
Yeah, it's okay. Yes, yes. Test mic. Test mic. Yes. Ndi gukora test ndi Yes, okay. Yeah. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 mic test. Uranyumva? Mic test.
namenyereye izikomeye zishaka reka ngaranya hariya tuharinde gafite nk'ashira agakiki karimo mazi reba hindura kandi kari yego karame
Yes, niyo mfite ndayifite. Test. Yes. Mic test. Mic test. Yes. Okay. Mic test. Mic test. Telefone yawe.
ntuza we ntabwo uzi gukoresha urimo kujyaho no kuganga ukayikoresha adede urimo no kujya mu mateste uri kuze gutereta umugore uri kuri mikoro
Test. Yes, uranyumva neza? Nta kibazo. Hanyuma sawa. Mujye. Yes. 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 Yes.
One, two, test the micro. 1 2.
Adede. Ndi kuvuga.
1 2 test 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 1 2.
Wamuhamagaye.
1 2 test 1 2 test 1 2 test 1 2 2 2 test 1 2 test the micro. 1 2 test 1 2 test 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2
Check.
We advise we should start.
All right, may I have your attention, please? I'm here. I'm seeing some people looking behind. Dihano, I'm here. Right, so my name is Eugene Anangwe, and I will be your MC today. And before the guest of honor arrives, I'd like just to announce a few house rules. You know, it's very important sometimes to have these rules, but they're not there to be broken. Dare break them. We have law enforcement authorities here, you'll be in trouble. So we will be live on Rwanda TV. And so during live productions, it's important to reduce in and out movements in the building. So if you need to go out, if you need to meet someone, you need to talk to someone, kindly do it in the shortest time possible, because in the next few minutes, we will have to reduce those movements. If you have a phone, kindly put it on silence or vibrate mode. I know some people will be watching TV, they'll see you and say, hello, I can see you. And so we don't want to interfere or interrupt with the transmission, because the microphones are sensitive and they'll pick the signal. So let's keep our phones on silent mode or vibrate. If you don't need to talk, just switch it off. We'd love to have this conversation go beyond this room. So we're calling upon all those who are on social media to tweet as much as you can. And we want to tweet with unity. And the hashtag that we are using is RGS2016, RGS 2016. So we want this to be the trending topic today. So if you're with your friend, you can take a selfie with them and just hashtag RGS 2016. You can also call on others to give their reactions. And when the launch is happening, you can as well tweet what you find interesting to share out there, so that we can be able to open up the conversation. The Wi-Fi here is free. If anybody has charged you, please let me know. It's free, and you need to connect to KCC. If you're using your own bandwidth, your own data bundles, I need to see you. It's January, but you're showing us how you're good in the pocket. But use the KCC Wi-Fi. All you need to do is connect to it. Once you're on, you'll see a back. Click on back. After you've clicked on it, agree on the terms and conditions. I don't know if you're selling your land or not, but just agree. And then press connect. And you'll be connected. So I'm hoping we're going to have a very interesting session, and we will get to know each other. So don't just sit there and you don't even know who you're seated with. Just take your time, interact with them, and then we'll be able to have a great conversation right here. So thank you very much for your attention. Let's do this. Thank you. right, so any moment from now, the guest of honor will be arriving. We'd like to request once he walks into the door, we would, with due respect, rise up to welcome him, and then we'll pick up from there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Right Honorable Prime Minister of Rwanda is here and he is our guest of honor. So I'd like to request us to rise up. Walks into the room, is just at the doorstep. Greetings at the door, and then he'll be in the room. Remain a bit organized. The cameramen kindly take the photos, yes, but in a very organized way. Let's receive him with a warm round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Let's clap as the Right Honorable Prime Minister of Rwanda walks in to grace this very great occasion, a great occasion marking a very significant step when it comes to governance in Rwanda. Thank you. We may have our seats.
Well, thank you very much, Eugene, for that word of opening. Now, I'm sure our cameraman is almost done. Right Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Ministers present, members of the Diplomatic Corps, all protocols observed. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Mwiriwe neza. My name is Fiona Mbabazi, and it is a pleasure being here for the launch of the 4th edition of the Rwanda Governance Scorecard. Anangwe.
Right, so when Fiona was saying the hellos, there was a bit of silence. Komu chechitsi? Metulia sana, that is what we say in Swahili. Right, it's going to be a very great day, and why I say it's a great day to the citizens of Rwanda is because you have a government that accepts to be gauged on its performance, and we're looking at 8 indicators and several sub-indicators of the areas of governance in this country. And this is that day that we get to know the right things and the areas where we need to correct on. In Swahili wanasema mbivu na mbichi. Ivihiye na vidahiye. This is the day that we'll be able to know all those things, right?
Definitely.
Right. So we have a great man here who has a team that has been working tirelessly day and night to put together the Rwanda Governance Scorecard for 2016. And of course, he is here with us, and he's going to be sharing with us more details concerning this scorecard. And Fiona.
Well, without further ado, let us welcome the CEO of the Rwanda Governance Board, of course, Professor Anastasia Shaka.
A round of applause, please, for Professor. Thank you.
Right Honorable Prime Minister, the resident coordinator of the One UN in Rwanda, honorable ministers here present, our general officers of our security institutions, members of parliament, ambassadors and high commissioners, members of diplomatic corps, international organizations, permanent secretaries and heads of our public institutions, distinguished leaders of our high learning institutions, civil society, faith-based organizations, media fraternity, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. It is my and the entire RGB family pleasure to welcome you all today at this beautiful KCC to the launch of the Rwanda Governance Scorecard 2016. Right Honorable Prime Minister, this year we are celebrating the 5th anniversary of the Rwanda Governance Scorecard. I want to warmly thank you, Your Excellency, for blessing this event with your presence here today. I also extend our gratitude to individuals, stakeholders, and institutions who have, in one way or another, supported the production of this RGS 2016. Particular thanks go to our development partners, particularly UNDP, for being with us at all stages of production of this study. Our international experts, Jendai Fraser, Dr. Maggie Ensign, John Clifton, and Lamine Manet, for their inputs into RGS 2016, and also our high-level panelists, Françoise, and especially Brian Kagoro, for making it to this event from Joburg. Finally, allow me to thank
my RGB team for making this happen. Right Honorable Prime Minister, I want to thank the government of Rwanda for taking seriously the recommendations we've made in previous editions of Rwanda Governance Scorecard. And we anticipate that you will kindly consider recommendations herewith formulated for implementation as well. Without undue, Right Honorable Prime Minister, distinguished guests, Rwanda Governance Scorecard is a kind of national index to gauge the status of governance in our country. As you know, governance is of paramount in driving development. So how is it constructed? It's made up of 8 key indicators, 37 sub-indicators, and 100 variables. It uses 43 sources of data that are coming from different data sources. There are primary data, citizen and expert surveys conducted by RGB, but also by other institutions, including civil society. We have secondary data coming from different other studies done in the country and outside the country, but also a good number of hard data from ministries, parliament, the judiciary, delivery agencies, private sector, and civil society organizations. The sources of our indicators are threefold. One, we have constructed our indicators from different various international indexes of governance, you all know, from the Worldwide Governance Indicators to Mo Ibrahim Index of Governance and many others. We also construct our indicators from various international frameworks, naming, for instance, the SDGs as of now, but also have a good number of Rwanda-specific indicators. So the very many data sources from the public, private, and civil society indicators amount to 43, as I said earlier. What is new in the current edition? One, for the first time, we have, for this edition, tried to make a kind of comparative analysis of global governance indexes to just see from various diverse indexes of governance how Rwanda is ranked, so that we can see where we have similarities and where we don't. RGS 2016 has also looked at to what extent the recommendations we have made in previous editions, at least a selection of them, have been implemented by the government of Rwanda. Thirdly, the recommendations we are making for this edition are not one-year recommendations, but we have looked at multi-year policy recommendations that can make a difference with regard to governance for production, governance that drives transformation. Fourth, compared to previous editions, we have revisited our scoring methods so that we make sure that the indicators we consider they are performing well, or we consider of excellence performance, a good results in performance that can be sustainably considered as a foundation for transformation. It is in this regard that we have, for indicator to perform green or to be considered as performing well, for this edition we have revisited the scoring to 80 and above, 80% and above for an indicator to be green. In the previous edition, a green indicator needed only to score 75%. Also, poor performance used to be looked at, considered as those scoring below 25%. We have revisited that Any indicator scoring below 40%, for us, we consider it as a very poor performance. So it is ambitious, but is in line with the thinking big of the government of Rwanda, but also the high aspirations we are seeing in the way we do business in government. The overview of Rwanda governance scorecard. As was said, we have 8 key indicators. As you can see, the 3 top best indicators for this year are number 1, safety and security, with a score of 92.62%. The second indicator is control of corruption, transparency, and accountability, which scored 86.56%, while political rights and civil liberties has scored 81.83%. The remaining 5 indicators are in yellow category, as they score between 70, 72 actually, and 79.7%. Could we have used the methodology we used to use previously, 6 out of these 8 indicators would have scored green, because they all score above 75%. But with new methods, only 3 indicators are scoring green, and other 5 are in yellow category. When you look at the trend in performance over the last 5 years, what you see is that rule of law has come up as the best improver in the last. When you look at when we started conducting this scorecard and now, the rule of law indicator has improved close to 12%. Public rights and civil liberties is second best improver with over 10%, immediately followed by the control of corruption, transparency, and accountability. So we have also an indicator investing in human capital and social development that in our scoring, the variation is negative, but that negative variation is mainly related to the improvement of indicator than the dropout in performance. When you look at overall performance, as we said, 3 out of 8 indicators have scored green. That makes 37% against 62.5% of yellow performance or moderate performance. When you consider the 37 sub-indicators making up those 8 indicators, we see that about closer to 49% have excellent performance. They score above 80%, while the very same has a moderate performance, and we've got 1 out of 37 indicator with a number or a poor performance. When you look at the very many variables we measure, 54% of all variables have performed excellently well, while 33% they have moderate performance, 10% they have a poor performance, and 3% of variables have a very poor performance. That means they score below 40%. What are then the most improving sub-indicators? We've considered a sub-indicator to be very well improving if the improvement performance is 5% and above. So the best performing sub-indicator is SMEs development and cross-border trade, with nearly 14% of improvement compared to the previous edition. The second in line is the rights to media freedom, with a double-digit improvement as well. That means our media reforms have yielded expected results. The third best most improving sub-indicator is respect for human rights, with a double-digit 10.3%, and incidence of corruption with 10.13%. We have other 6 sub-indicators whose improvement range between 5 and 9%. Those ones, we consider them as being setting a very good pace and showing the way for the improvement even in the future. We have got also sub-indicators with poor performance. There are 4: the service delivery in social sector, vibrance of civil society organizations in policy formulation, citizens' participation, social protection, and national capital and export promotion. For these indicators, for us, for our governance to get fixed, there is a need for those areas to be looked at and strategies be adopted to make sure that there is change both in governance but also in performance, their performance. If we look now at the key findings per indicator, indicator 1 is rule of law. Overall performance is 79.68%, very close to the excellence performance. This indicator is made up is political and civil liberties. This indicator is made up of 7 sub-indicators, 4 of which range in the excellence performance, while 3 are in the moderate performance. Those are core international reports on them. Democratic rights and freedoms, 83%. Rights to media freedom, 85.8%. And respect for human rights, 85.6%. Participation and inclusiveness. Overall performance, 76.48%. This indicator is made up of 5 sub-indicators, 2 of which have performed excellently, while 3 have a moderate performance. Safety and security. This is the top best performing indicator with 4 sub-indicators, all of which are green. 5th indicator is investing in human and social development. This indicator is made up of 4 sub-indicators, 1 sub-indicator in green, meaning excellent performance, and 3 others in moderate performance. Indicator 6 is control of corruption, transparency, and accountability. Overall score is 86.56% with 3 sub-indicators, and all of them have scored excellently. Indicator 7 is quality of service delivery, is made up of 4 sub-indicators, all of which are in moderate performance, and the overall score for this indicator is 72.93%. Last but not least is the indicator on economic and corporate governance. This indicator is made up of 5 sub-indicators, 2 of which have scored excellently. They include business environment promotion as well as private sector promotion, both of which have scored above 80%, while 3 other sub-indicators have scored, actually 2 have scored moderately and 1 have scored poorly. The poor performance is at national capital and export promotion, while moderate performance is on SMEs development and cross-border trade, as well as on macroeconomic indicators. I wanted to say, out of these findings, we've made some policy recommendations governance 2016 are recommendations we consider that are going to fulfill two functions. One, making sure that areas with deficit will be improved. Number two, we are making recommendations that we consider that they are foundational to transformation that Rwanda is aspiring to. Recommendation number one, to scale up and revamp the quality of extension services in agriculture sector to spur high productivity and wealth creation in rural areas. Your Excellency, we consider this recommendation as an imperative given that over 70% of our people are living in agriculture, and we see some deficit in the delivery of some inputs that are needed to make the sector contributing efficiently to our national development and growth, but also to making a difference in transforming livelihoods of our citizens. Whether we talk about fertilizers, timely access to fertilizers, timely access to seeds, whether we talk about access to markets, whether we talk about value chain in agriculture sector, all those extension services, we consider that they need to be scaled up and revamped. We see some good initiatives, but those good initiatives need to be expanded. The second recommendation is on environment. We recommend to design and operationalize a multi-year nationwide strategy for mainstreaming climate change resilience into our development planning. The picture speaks for itself. I don't need to make details, but that is in Rwanda. Though there are some global challenges, but I think we can have some local solutions that can help mitigate and make us more resilient vis-a-vis environmental shocks. Recommendation number 3, to design and operationalize a multi-year nationwide strategy for sustainable urbanization and rural settlement as an imperative to achieve a middle-income economy status. Whether we are talking about cities development, whether we are talking about modern settlement, looking at the rural IDP village can serve as an initiative that can be emulated to other parts of the country. Recommendation number 4, to design and operationalize a multi-year national strategy geared towards reducing, in maximum 5 years, at least 80% of charcoal and firewood consumption by switching to gas and electricity as an imperative for a sustainable and eco-friendly development. Your Excellency, the current status in this regard is not in favor of our sustainable development. Resolution number 5, to design and operationalize multi-year innovative approaches to increase Rwanda's export capabilities in order to reduce trade deficit and improve the overall status of balance of payment. Resolution number 6, to align sectoral policy implementation of socioeconomic development strategies with those of secondary cities development so that these cities effectively become poles of growth. Right Honorable Prime Minister, this is an area where we haven't maximized our potential and where we think there is room for delivering development better. Resolution number 7, to put up mechanisms for effective and accountable delivery of social development innovations to ensure accelerated graduation from poverty and better livelihood to the citizens. Whether we talk about Girinka, whether we are talking about VUP, whether we are talking about other social development innovations, we think there is room to make them more effective and to enforce greater accountability in their implementation. Resolution number 8, Your Excellency, we propose to adopt a national-wide comprehensive policy that ensures compliance with quality service delivery standards in both public and private domains. Right Honorable Prime Minister, this edition, Rwanda Governance Scorecard 2016, shows where the country is doing great and points also to areas where reforms and improvement are needed. As a recap, we note that with appreciation that safety and security is the all-time best performer indicator in our governance. In all our measurements, it has been green. It has had excellent performance. We also note that rule of law, justice sector and related, it has come out as the all-time best improver. And we note that accountability, transparency, and control of corruption has emerged as this year's best improver. So we congratulate those in the 3 sectors, and we encourage those in the other 5 remaining sectors to do more. Overall, Your Excellency, distinguished audience, Rwanda Governance Scorecard 2016 clearly shows that Rwanda is making commendable strides towards building and sustaining a social democratic developmental state, a state that is committed to transformation of people's lives, a state that is committed to development, democratic principle, and a state that is committed to spurring development as a rationale and a drive for the government. Finally, Your Excellency, I wanted to thank you all here and say that the full report is available for those who are here, but also those who are not here is accessible through our website. I thank you.
Thank you so much, the CEO, Professor Anastase Shaka, for that very, very neat infographic and, of course, detailed presentation and important numbers that we have seen right there. And, of course, at this particular point, we'd love to digest those numbers, what they mean, and, of course, get some expert view on those particular recommendations. And this is when I hand over to my able co-MC, Fiona Mbabazi, who's going to have a panel discussion with experts on this particular report that we've just seen right here. Fiona, take it away.
Thank you very much, Anango. And of course, it is important to note that Rwanda does not shy away at looking where they're going wrong, where they're improving, and what they need to do to get where they're going. So I'd like to call my panelists, Mr. Brian Kogoro, and of course, Ms. Francoise Kaitare. Please join me at the platform, and we'll discuss more on what has just been said and what their views as experts is all about. Well, thank you very much. And of course, we've just seen the scorecard and what it means to Rwanda, but of course it is important to deduce what it means from the expert views through our social economic development towards it, and of course also through our experts. Of course, I'm joined by Mr. Brian Kogoro, who who has worked for the AU, is a policymaker through debates, and has also worked at the UNDP African Center, Rwandan expert, should I say friend of Rwanda, and of course a Pan-Africanist. Thank you very much. And of course, I'm also joined by the acting principal for the College of Business and Economics, Francoise Kaitari. Thank you very much for making time to be with us this afternoon. I'll start over with you, Brian. What's your take on the Rwanda governance scorecard that we've just seen, and how credible our index is?
And that's a very important question. I think it's very credible. Let me give you a few examples. So if you look at access to information and media, and you look at the Global Open Data Index, it ranks Rwanda very highly. You do have other indices that rank Rwanda low, Freedom House, and so on and so forth. This is not a beauty contest. If you take indices that are not tied to foreign policy, they tend to rank highly because they appreciate. Or if you take media freedom, if you take safety and security, and you take the Gallup worldwide poll, the 2015, ranks Rwanda highly. Mo Ibrahim, same. So there's no inconsistency between the rankings that we've gone through and some of the global credible governance assessment platforms.
So you'd say that governance assessment is important?
Yeah, well, look, you cannot improve performance if you can't measure it. If you want to transform something, you have to quantify the nature of transformation. We measure governance because it is the singular thing. When you look at African development, that's become the main obstacle. It doesn't matter which country you're talking about in Africa. Governance has become a handicap to any effort to transform.
But we've seen many African countries, of course, shy away from this, but I'll not let you answer that. I'll just go straight to Francoise. How do we link governance to socio-economic development?
We cannot talk about governance without considering socio-economic transformation, because these two go hand in hand. When we talk about a well-governed state, it is reflected by the improvement in the living standards of its citizens. So when we talk about good governance, it is reflected by these 8 indicators that we have just seen, where they are presenting each and every day-to-day life of a citizen in the country. So we cannot separate good governance and socio-economic transformation.
So why is the report really important for citizens, and how do we empower the citizens to relate to this scorecard that is about to be launched?
This Rwanda governance scorecard reflects really ownership and perception of our citizens. When we look at the data, how is it collected? Most of the data is got from the citizens' perceptions and surveys, how Rwandans are satisfied by different organs. So it is really owned by the citizens, and it is going to be implemented but also improved through our citizens. So the ownership and perception and the accountability is really reflected in what has been presented here.
How do we improve? How do we see that citizens are really, participating? Because we've seen in the indices it's a bit down. So how do we grow that and see that they are participating towards the development of Rwanda?
If you look at, for example, one of the indicators, citizens have really claimed to be more involved in the planning and budgeting processes. By the fact that they are claiming to be more involved, it shows that they really want to participate in what is being done for them, which is very, very important. If we score that relatively moderate, it means that citizens, they really want to be more involved, which is very important, because we cannot talk about governance when we don't really include citizens in each and everything we do.
We've seen many African countries, Mr. Brian, shying away, of course, from giving the citizens their report on what is happening around the countries. I don't know why this is happening in particular, especially that we as Africa want to grow towards the Agenda 2063 of the African Union. The scorecard, is it in relevance to the African Union's Agenda 2063? Are we on the right track?
I think perfectly so. Firstly, congratulations to Rwanda for a homegrown index. Because if you can't measure yourself, you will be mismeasured by others. So in a sense, Agenda 2063 can be reduced to one other lofty African declaration of intent. When you want to move to implementation, you have to move beyond shared norms, shared values, shared institutions, to a shared conception of performance. So what this index does is it gets Africans to start thinking about performance both as a culture and also as a science. We have had for a long time declarations, and you can't fault them. From 1963, we've been declaring many things. The taste of the pudding is in the eating, and you cannot eat until you know what is the ingredient. And to know the ingredient, you have to measure. So Agenda 2063 needs a performance management system. Yes, it needs many other things, but it needs a system by which citizens can assess, are we on the right track? If we're not, how do we recalibrate?
The civil society organizations, of course, we've also seen is one of the places that is not really growing. How do we, see that the civil society in Rwanda is vibrant? Because without a civil society organization that is vibrant, then Africa could be lagging behind. So how do we see that the CSOs are growing and are vibrant, specifically in the country, in Rwanda?
I think it's useful for me to put a little writer in understanding of civil society. Constructions of civil society as purely oppositional to the government agenda creates a problematic appreciation of whether or not there's a functional and vibrant civil society in Rwanda. If by civil society you mean the aggregated interests of citizens expressed through voluntary associations, engaging either in development work, inputting into policy, the development of civil society in Rwanda requires two things. One is the supply side, continue to make sure that the laws are enabling and the environment. But number two, it's the capacity of civil society to input into policy. Because the space can exist. The ability to claim it requires a certain measure of skills, capabilities, and understanding of the policy cycle. So I think it's a two-way. Accountability is not, if you have an oversupply of accountability and a limited demand from the citizens, then at some stage, you will have a problem. Accountability will falter.
So let's go then to you. When we talk about socio-economic development, Francois, we have seen that the economic and corporate governance, the problem that we have been talking about mostly in this country or in Rwanda is service delivery. We see that it is still low. How do we move? What should be done to eventually see that we are giving the best services? We are growing in so many other areas, but when it comes to service delivery, we are still lagging behind. How do we grow in that?
If before I respond to that one, I just quickly add on something on civil society. If you look at this RDC that has been presented, the civil society participation has significantly increased from 63 to 72% compared to RGC of 2014 and this current one that has just been presented. It shows how civil society is really being also involved and engaged through the journey of good governance. Then on that one, quickly, Rwanda has quite really invested in ICT and science and technology. If we want to really improve the quality of services, let us really embrace the use of ICT in each and every sector we are having, because it increases efficiency, but also effectiveness of different services we are delivering. I think that's one of the best solutions we can go for.
And in terms of export, we're looking at Made in Rwanda. We want Made in Rwanda, people in China to now start wearing Made in Rwanda products. How do we get there?
Definitely, yes, because all of us here in the room, we have really a big responsibility to make sure that is done. How? It is through the strengthening our value chains in different ways, in the sense that starting from the farmer up to the export, who is involved in that process? All of us, we are involved in different stages, including academia, including government, including public sector, including private sector. We are all of us involved, because starting from a farmer or a manufacturer down there up to reach to a final product that has to be exported, it requires a strong process. So how do we accompany that farmer or that manufacturer through the process. I think all the institutions involved, all the players involved, we need to work hand in hand and make sure that we all perform our roles through different stages.
Brian, when we started, we talked about, of course, governance, and I mentioned that some African countries still lag behind when it comes to governance and giving out the information. But then, so how can Rwanda actually influence the African countries as well to say, yes, this is where we are. Do not feel shy. We could be, lagging. We could be slow. Let's take the pace together without them necessarily withholding information and hiding from the population that demands them to see that they grow every day.
And I think what Rwanda offers first and foremost, and Rwandans need to celebrate this, is the idea of homegrown solutions. So the problem in Africa is not necessarily, is that we borrow things from far away, and then we inorganically fix them. So we have a problem of, to use a biblical term, David trying to wear Saul's armor. It doesn't fit. As a lawyer, I'm a lay person when it comes to medicine. And often our countries are judged using the wrong standard. So one of the things that Rwanda can begin to encourage other African countries to do is use your local knowledge systems. Use your socio-cultural strength to design a governance assessment system. And then number two, when you are assessing, make sure that it is credible. Make sure you don't just do perception surveys. Rwanda uses a hybrid system of assessment. You have experts, you have international indices, you have. In that way, our countries will not wait, as I said, to be misassessed on the basis of wrong indices. So what Rwanda ought to do is to help form a community of practice. Rwanda must not be shy to export its experience, not as the magic pill, but as part of this peer learning where Rwanda says, this is how we did it in our own country. You may do something that's related, that's similar based on your own national context. Because Rwanda has also had one privilege that Rwandans most probably don't want to forget: leadership. I think that if your leadership were not committed to ensuring that there's constant improvement from 1994 to date, Rwanda would have been a totally different country. So the gift of leadership is one. But the second thing, which is key to sustaining change, is a conscious citizenry that owns the process of transformation, that believes, because what lacks in most countries is self-belief. And I trust and hope that Rwandans have a greater self-belief. Is Rwanda perfect? No. Should Rwanda be perfect? No. What Rwanda should be able to do is simply say, in our imperfections, we have done things that have taken us forward. And this we share as encouragement. Lead with strength, not by weakness.
As we sum up, because I see the time is running out, but I'll not let you go before you giving us some of the recommendations, Francois, that you feel should be put in place to see us grow socio-economically towards the development of our country.
Number one is how do we improve our exports, because it's one of the areas that is still lagging behind. And as I mentioned, we really need to work together through this, because if we don't strengthen our value chains throughout that, then it's not going to work at all. Secondary is to improve our quality in terms of quality of services by embracing ICT, because it's possible in all areas. The third one, it's just keeping our citizens as involved as we can. And for example, if we take this scorecard and try to simplify it in a simple booklet that can be discussed within Umuganda or Inteko y'Abaturage, or in a simple way that can be really taken as a document that citizens can sit and discuss. Make sure that this scorecard can be easily translated in Kinyarwanda. I'm not sure how Professor Thiaka and the team would try to do that, but it's very important that they see and reflect what we got from their perception surveys, their satisfaction surveys. They really need to see what we talked to the team when they came to us, this is the result that the team had been able to put together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francois. Brian, what are the recommendations that you think need to be implemented to see us grow towards governance?
Well, don't stop, number one. Link this to the Sustainable Development Goals. I know that there's already been a link. But number two, let's broaden the leadership, not just in civil society, in the private sector that sees the value of measuring how we govern corporates, how we govern administrative structures, how we govern other areas. And lastly, look, if Rwanda remains an island of excellence, surrounded by a cesspool of underperformance, very soon what Rwanda is doing will be threatened by the fact that it's not Rwandans only who are investing here. It's not Rwandans only who visit here. So if there's no culture of performance around your neighbors, the very fact that Rwanda has become this great beacon of performance may itself be under threat. The reason why Rwanda must project outwardly and sell its experience and persuade is national security and defense of this value. Otherwise, Rwanda will become just another statistic like everybody else. If you can't beat them, join them. So to beat them, persuade them.
Thank you very much. I don't think there's anything much I can add. If you can't beat them, persuade them. A round of applause for my panelists. Anango, if you can't beat them, persuade them.
Don't join them. Persuade them. Thank you so much. Excellent job. Let's give them another round of applause, please. Perfect. Thank you. And the conversation should not end here. It's just the beginning. Let's keep talking. And of course, to those who are watching us from home, who are streaming online, you can also join the conversation. It's pretty simple. Use the hashtag RGS2016. Put in your input on these particular issues that we're discussing right here. At this particular moment, the One UN has been a very key partner in Rwanda's economic transformation. Now, with this kind of scorecard or report card out, it's important to hear from the partner what he thinks or his team thinks about the performance of the people that they are partnering with. Let me welcome the resident coordinator, One UN, Lamin Mane. Let's give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Murakoze Chame, our MCs, thank you very much. Nyakubawa, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Ministers and senior government officials here present, senior defense, police and correctional services officers here present, particularly through the CDS, IGP, and I believe the head of correctional services, the Chief Executive Officer, Rwanda Governance Board, honorable members of Parliament here present, Lord Mayor of Kigali, provincial governors and the mayors, Your Excellencies, ambassadors, heads of diplomatic missions and the heads of cooperation agencies, our high-level panelists and resource persons, representatives of civil society, private sector and the media, distinguished members of the academia and the research organizations, and my dear colleagues from the One UN family, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. Allow me to start by saying to you all, Mirwe Neza Mwez, good afternoon, bonjour. Right Honorable Prime Minister, it is a great pleasure and honor for me to make this brief statement and a comment on the 2016 Rwanda Governance Scorecard in your esteemed presence. Let me thank the government of Rwanda through you and also RGB in particular for this appreciable gesture, which I believe reflects the productive partnership with the One UN Rwanda team in Rwanda that has been growing from strength to strength, particularly in the areas of governance, as has been observed by Professor Siaka. Donc, permettez-moi aussi d'exprimer Notre gratitude vers l'honorable Premier ministre d'être avec nous ici cet après-midi, malgré votre agenda très chargé. Right Honorable Prime Minister, your presence here is an attestation of the high importance President Kagame, yourself, and the government of Rwanda accord to the issue of good governance. Let me also thank the ambassadors, development partners, civil society, the private sector, the academic community, the media, and all the other stakeholders for their presence here massively, which I believe is an expression of your appreciation of the importance you attach to good governance and sustainable development, but also to the need to track progress being recorded towards them. I think Brian put it very well. If you want to transform, you should be able to measure the progress you are making. Right Honorable Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, I will try to build upon many of the points raised by Professor Siaka and the panelists to make my discourse meaningful. As most of you are aware, the United Nations also places high priority on the nurturing of good governance because we believe that it is a critical precondition not only for sustainable development and durable stability of all societies, but also for intrinsic human fulfillment. I think over the past year, if anybody has doubts about the importance of governance, I think that should be dispelled by now. Just simple changes of governance systems in style, in substance, or changes in the leadership style perceptions can have big reverberations on societies. And in some cases, in the case of some countries, it has reverberations for the global community. No need to mention what is going on. So it is for this reason that we have consistently attached high priority to our cooperation with the government of Rwanda, particularly through RGB in the area of the promotion of good governance, among others. The Rwanda Governance Scorecard, as you could have seen, has over the past 5 years become one of the flagship outputs of this cooperation. And we are very proud about the immense progress that it has made within this short period of time. The significance of the Rwanda Governance Scorecard lies in the fact that while, as I said, no reasonable person could question the critical importance of good governance to sustainable progress of societies, many people often forget that advances towards the ideal forms of governance necessarily takes time. These advances are also influenced in large measure by context-specific variables. Again, Brian talked of that. Thus, measuring progress by societies towards good governance in its different dimensions is key for gauging success, for making course corrections where necessary, and or intensifying efforts at sustaining and building on the gains made. In all this, paying close attention to context-specific characteristics is also of crucial importance for fashioning the most appropriate interventions. This is because, as I will note shortly, in the real world, the way democracy evolves and is practiced differs measurably from one societal context to another. This also tends to influence the way different people perceive democracy and good governance. I want to make this as first point, which is very relevant to the Rwanda Governance Scorecard. So on one extreme, people look at governance in its pure form, as a pure science. On the other extreme, some people want to give their own definition to governance. but there is the in-between. That is the first point I want to make. Right Honorable Prime Minister, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the second important point that we should bear in mind is beyond the basic definition of democracy, which I will recall quickly, the way it is practiced in the societies. When you look at what is happening below the surface in many countries, regions, you will actually see significant differences. So that is the second point I want to make. But democracy, when it is defined in its very basic sense, it's best understood when we look at its origins. And the origin of democracy is in the Greek word demo, meaning people, and the krasia, meaning power. So in all the democratic regimes, the notion of people power has remained central to the concept and practice of democracy and the governance mechanisms. So that is a key strand which runs through all democratic forms. Now, as I said, beyond this basic definition of democracy, the way it is practiced in different contexts is amazingly diverse. So, if you look at how democracy is practiced in the USA, in Italy, in Switzerland, in France, in UK, I'm sure this will ring bells. You see differences jumping up in China, in Japan, India, Myanmar, Brazil, Chile, Arab states, Francophone versus Anglophone African countries, etc. But the famous Swiss expert in democratization processes, Albrecht Schnabel, who was formerly with the acclaimed Geneva Center for Democratic Control of Armed Forces, made this point. Democracies come in various shades, depending on the historic, political, ideological, cultural, economic, or social context and experiences that shape the way in which the rule of people and by the people is organized. So that's the second major point, Right Honorable Prime Minister would like to underscore as I move to link this to the Rwanda governance scorecard. So two fundamentals. The first is how democracy is defined and governance practices. And the second one is how its practice differs from one context to another. So Albrecht Schnabel is not from Rwanda, he's from Switzerland, and they have a very unique form of governance. I want to move to the next point, Right Honorable Prime Minister, which is to link these two fundamentals to the Rwanda governance scorecard and the Rwanda governance context. Before I quickly go through the commentaries. What is important, ladies and gentlemen, is that despite those conceptual and empirical differences, in any well-functioning democratic regime, you have certain fundamental elements that are present throughout them. And these are participation of the mass of people in electing their leaders and in the governance processes through transparent and fair electoral processes. Secondly, accountability of leaders to the people who bring them to power. Thirdly, ensuring civil liberties, freedom of expression and association. Fourthly, maintaining the rule of law. Fifthly, well-functioning and accountable public administration systems. Sixthly, responsive and efficient local administration regimes. Seventhly, ensuring national and personal security, which is very important. People don't feel secure They can be rich, but it will not mean anything to them. Eighthly, effective institutions and mechanisms for controlling corruption and maintaining high levels of service delivery. Let there be a disruption, even a slight disruption in service delivery in France, everybody goes up in arms against the government. And then creating conducive environments for economic and social development. And finally, nurturing institutions for peaceful change of power. I think at this point, you can recognize all these fundamental elements, firstly, in the Rwanda governance scorecard, and secondly, in how governance is conducted in the Rwanda context. This is very important, because when you hear some people analyze the governance situation in Rwanda, you will think that it belongs to another planet. But fundamentally, these are the key elements of any well-functioning democratic and governance system anywhere in the world. I think if you do a mental check of how it is done in Japan, the situation in the US, these are the key elements that will come to your mind in any of them. So, going beyond the governance variables, we are also pleased to note that the Rwanda Governance Scorecard has become a truly scientific method for assessing the progress being made in the key governance areas in Rwanda. So I will not dwell at length on that. I think Prof's presentation and the panelists have also talked to that. This is very important because when we do measurement, we should be attentive to the credibility of the methodology. I think the Rwanda Governance Scorecard is scoring very high on that. The related point about that, which is pleasing to us, is how RGB is courageous to also juxtapose the methodology being used here, which is informed by international practices, to the well-established international measurements, the Mo Ibrahim Foundation, Transparency International. So it is not been done in an insular or defensive context. It is set against those well-established practices in the area of governance. So we believe that this underscores the government and RGB's commitment to rigor, to accuracy, and to transparency. Hence, the results of the study speak to the realities of Rwanda, but are also comparable at the international level. And we are pleased to note that this honest self-assessment in the government and RGS is a symbol of commitment to change from within, which is embodied by none other than His Excellency President Kagame. To change from within, and sometimes in response to constructive external observations and sometimes disapprovals and the suggestions that could be unpleasant, is the best way to maintain a positive trajectory. So next, I would like to just a quick mention of our own review of the Rwanda Governance Scorecard 2016. This has now been done extensively before, and in the interest of time, I will not dwell at length on that. But I would like to note the fact that some of the critical indicators of governance have been able to register appreciable improvements. The political rights and civil liberties from 73.6 to 81.83 in 2016. You are all aware that this is one area where Rwanda comes under a lot of criticism. The rule of law is very important. Lawless societies can never develop I was recently in my country, and by God, I saw how lawlessness could destroy, societies potentially. Our society was not destroyed. We were helped, we were prevented from it, but I can see how it could happen. Here also, Rwanda scores very high, but I'm surprised about the score, only 79.668. I think we need a little bit more explanation there. I look at the sub-indicators. Of course, control of corruption, transparency, and accountability from 77 to 86.5. I think, as Brian noted, this also reflects what is in the international, publications. This is one of the areas where Rwanda is very well known. I think you should appreciate this. Just do a mental check on what is happening in some of the neighboring countries, where sometimes $2 billion is lost. Nobody knows where it is. Ministers say, oh, I think it is there. The others say, no, it's put there. $2 billion is a lot of money. If it can disappear, that talks to the level of corruption. So this is a very, very important score for Rwanda. Now, of course, we are very proud that in some of the critical areas, progress has not only been maintained, but it continues to be improved. The trust in the armed forces and the national policy. Now, to go out of Rwanda, some of my relatives are serving in Darfur, army and police officers. And one of the things they tell me when they know I'm here, they say that in Darfur, when people are going to functions that require escort, everybody will ask for the Rwandan peacekeepers. So this trust, and also what is happening with the police in countries like Haiti, if you talk to them. So this trust is not only found here, but also outside. Safety and security from 91.3 to 92.6. Participation and inclusiveness, we are also pleased that it's improving. Now, Right Honorable Prime Minister, I just want to point to 3 areas which need a lot of attention. One is service delivery. 2 is investing in human and social development. We are aware that the score had reduced because of the restructuring of the variables. But I think this has been lauded as a big asset for Rwanda, and we should quickly address the underlying factors. We have also noted that the justice sector has dipped a bit because it was the fastest performing sector in the last RGS. Prof explained that this is due again to measurement changes which are more rigorous. But we are pleased to note that we have funded the electronic platform, which actually won a prize globally. That electronic platform is intended to speeding up the processing of the cases. It is one of the very good practices globally. We also believe that with the better functioning of the abunzis and other reforms, the trend in the justice sector will be reversed. Finally, in terms of our commentary, the economic and corporate governance. Again, I have told Prof this. I believe that Rwanda has one of the best robust economic management systems. And I still differ, we have had this discussion. I still believe that the macroeconomic area should register a higher score. And I think we need to have explanation, about that. So let me conclude by saying that as we gather here today, I will urge every one of us to use the opportunity of the launch of the Rwanda Governance Scorecard to review how we collectively and individually have contributed to good governance in Rwanda, because we have. And collectively, and again individually celebrate that progress. By all means, Rwanda's performance over the past years with respect to most of the vital indicators of governance has been outstanding, and it continues to advance gradually but assuredly. For the development partners, I believe that it is our supreme duty to support this process, move from strength to strength, rather than shoot from the sidelines. I am also acutely aware that despite this progress, many partners and observers continue to view with concern certain important governance areas, notably press freedom, political space, civil society participation, and the whole model of consensual democracy. For the UN family, we see the first set of areas belonging to civil liberties as very important, but these are works in progress. I came here in September 2012, and I've been involved through RGB and the other governance sector-related institutions, very closely involved in supporting the reform process. And I can say that we have seen measurable progress even in these areas. For the model of consensual democracy, we believe that this has worked so far for the country. This is grounded on the realities, and I think, as Brian has said, the Rwandan government and people and other stakeholders should continue to work on probably improving it, but don't be rushed to jettison it. The country needs continuous reconciliation. It needs unity. It needs the kind of leadership you have, and it needs the kind of good management systems for it to maintain that progress. The moment the governance system breaks down, all these will be lost. So let me say finally, Right Honorable Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, that the UN system has been responding to the recommendations of RGS. We always look at them very critically with a view to including them in our interventions. And I think we are seeing very good results. So let me end by thanking you, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, for being here. It's encouragement, shows how committed the government is under the leadership of President Kagame to reinforcing the processes of governance. And let me thank Prof and his team for doing a great job. We are proud of you. Maintain the cap. Merci beaucoup pour votre aimable attention. Thank you very much for your attention. Murakoze cyane.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And of course, what I always believe in is a good friend is the one that praises you, but most importantly is ready to point out the areas that you're not doing right. And I'm sure that Lamine will have a tete-a-tete with the good professor and CEO of RGB to answer those areas where he needed some clarifications. Thank you. So it is now my duty and honor to welcome and invite the guest of honor, the Right Honorable Prime Minister of Rwanda, Anastase Murekezi, to come and give us his keynote address and officially launch the RGS 2016. Let's give him a round of applause as he comes to address us. Thank you.
Honorable Cabinet Ministers here present, the Mayor of the city of Kigali, and the governors of the provinces, honorable members of the Parliament of Rwanda here present, security organs, leaders, members of the diplomatic corps and international organizations, the resident coordinator of UN in Rwanda, development partners, the CEO of RGB, and other senior government officials, representatives of private sector institutions, academia, civil society-based organizations, distinguished. On behalf of the government of Rwanda, I am pleased to preside over this important ceremony of launching the Rwanda Government Governance Scorecard 2016. This governance scorecard, commonly known as RGS, has become a governance mirror that scientifically describes our governance. It is a unique assessment tool which is based on the locally generated primary data such as citizen satisfaction surveys and detailed institutional data which are often not considered by external indexes. I wish to thank the CEO of Rwanda Governance Board for his clear presentation on findings and key policy recommendations on the Rwanda Governance Scorecard 2016. He has helped us. He has helped us to better understand the Rwandan 2016 state of governance and what we need to do to achieve more good results. I also thank the resident coordinator of UN for his speech and commitment to continue himself and the international community of development partners to work hand in hand with the government of Rwanda to further promote good governance for our citizens. The presence of all of you here today is a testimony to our joint commitment to good governance. I take this opportunity to congratulate Rwanda Governance Board and its stakeholders for consistently publishing this important indicator since 2011. The government of Rwanda is highly committed to implementing the 8 recommendations from Rwanda Governance Scorecard 2016, as well as all recommendations which will be published in the future. Excellencies, distinguished guests. In general, as pointed out by the CEO of RGB, the Rwanda Governance Scorecard 2016 indicates that Rwanda has had an improved performance in comparison to previous years. The Rwanda Governance Scorecard 2016 shows that security and safety indicator continue to lead other 7 indicators of governance in 2016. Indeed, it is scored 92.62%. And this score is not different from the 2015 Gallup Global Law and Order report that named Rwanda with 85% among the few countries in the world where people feel really safe walking home alone at night. This means that our security organs are doing a great job. We need to congratulate them. The second best performing indicator is pertaining to the control of corruption and accountability indicator, which scored 86.56%. This performance is in line with the recent performance of Rwanda in the Corruption Perception Index, which was released last week by Transparency International. The third best performing indicator is political rights and civil liberties, which stands at 81.83%. The remaining 5 indicators also performed well, but not very well, as we would like to see. They are namely the rule of law, participation and inclusiveness, economic and corporate governance, investing in human and social development, and quality service. We have registered this required report. As just mentioned by the CEO of RGB, the least performing indicator in the RGS 2016 remains quality service delivery. It stands at only 72.93%. Indeed, this sector remains the least performer indicator for the 4th time in a row. This is a big concern for us. As you are aware, the last year's National Dialogue Council, Umushyikirano Council, resolved that concrete steps must be taken in the public and private sector to pave the road for drastic improvements in service delivery. We cannot afford to tolerate for long a culture of poor service delivery as we aim to be a modern service-based economy. The government of Rwanda is going to double its efforts in ensuring that service in the social sector and in the economic sector are well delivered. This is not for nothing. This is because the socio-economic transformation of our country is highlighted in our Vision 2020. This relies heavily on a strong service sector. I therefore urge all institutions, public and private, as well as civil society and all Rwandans as we are, to consider the service delivery sector as a top priority. To achieve this, we will need to all change our individual mindset. Indeed, as His Excellency President Paul Kagame, the President of the Republic of Rwanda, has said, I quote, "To improve service delivery, you need to change your mentality and believe in your right to demand what you are due. Providing good service is not something we need to be given. We are capable of achieving it if we set our mind to it. If we don't demand that we get good service, we also have a problem." End of quote. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Launching the Rwanda Governance Scorecard 2016 is a golden opportunity for us to remind the role of scholars and think tanks in developing our countries. They are key players whose expertise should address our challenges by contributing innovative and fact-based solutions. The government of Rwanda is committed to continue working closely with you all to accelerate the socio-economic transformation that we need in our country. It is in this context that in November 2016, the Rwandan government passed a new Rwanda Governance Board law that aims at providing it more autonomy and independence of operation. Most importantly, the law, this new law, RGB law, equips this institution with powers that position it to efficiently and effectively conduct independent and evidence-based research on governance. It also allows RGB to monitor and regulate service delivery in public and private institutions while providing recommendations to improve service delivery in the country. I request RGB to ensure that its new mandate is executed with diligence and professionalism. The government of Rwanda will be always there to support you and your institution for the requirement to execute your mission as by the law. Usually, we have public service, central government, and local government expected to do very well in the service delivery. We have private sector, private company doing quite well, but we must do better. And for this, we need strong monitoring system with facts from research work. IGB is the center for this very highly expected work to fast development in quality service delivery. I would like to end my remarks, and I once again congratulate RGB and all stakeholders here present for having worked hard, very hard, to conduct the survey whose findings we are releasing officially today, and to organize this launching ceremony. With these remarks, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my pleasure to declare the Rwanda Governance Scorecard 2016 officially launched. Thank you for your attention. God bless all of you.
Thank you so much, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, for the very encouraging and important remarks on the RGS 2016. Right, so at this particular point, I would like us to have a very important session. We always say a picture speaks more than 1,000 words, and it also remains with us as memory. So we will have a photo opportunity with the guest of honor, and I would like to humbly call upon the following. I'd like to call upon the CEO of Rwanda Governance Board and the resident coordinator of One UN, and all the ambassadors and high commissioners available or present here today, the Chief of Defense and Staff, and the Inspector General of Police, who will be joined by the guest of honor right here for the photo opportunity. Yes, here. Would the cameraman kindly hurry up? Just let's do this swiftly. Okay, let's do it real fast. All right, put it as one of the indicators. Huh? Right. So also the members of cabinet present are supposed to also be here with us. Our photos, Murihe. Right. Okay. Yes, all the governors in the room, and of course the mayor of the city should also bless this photo session. With due respect to the Right Honorable Prime Minister, let's also have them. Members of Parliament present in the room. Yes. The biggest photo of the year. All right, so we could have others behind. All right, thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Now, the guest of honor will be able to leave at his own pleasure, but the next item on the program is cocktail